So, hi everyone. Ooh, is it too loud to increase? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, then I shouldn't speak so loud probably. Everyone had a good time in the party. Who was here? Was in the party? You guys are the strongest, really. It's amazing. I don't know how you managed. I told myself I maybe shouldn't go to the party, and I was pretty sure that no one will actually come. But it's quite full, so thank you very much, first of all, for coming. I will start the presentation. You need to change this thing. Yeah. So, if this one as well, it works. Yeah, perfect. So, there's still more people coming. Maybe quickly about myself. I'm Israeli originally. I live in Hanover, which is not so far. It's like 1.5 hours away from here by train. I speak German, Hebrew, a few other languages. Really like languages, super cool. I'm the last 6 years in Germany. Before I founded my own company, it's called Cyberum. I was working as the head of security testing by Volkswagen, by VW. There I was basically, me and my team, we were trying to hack cars basically for the entire Volkswagen group. So if it was a Lamborghini or Porsche or Bentley and stuff like that, that's basically what we did every day. It was super cool. And the nice thing about cars is that you basically have the whole spectrum, right? So you have from the embedded devices, you have the metal, the hardware, which you can find thousands of interesting things there. And you have it all the way to embedded SIM card and backends and cloud services and everything. I don't know if you know, but every car since 2017 is basically somehow communicating with some kind of a backend this time, okay? So it's really cool. And those cars are actually how they communicate. Like the topic we have today, it's APIs. Lots of APIs we see not only in cars, we see it in many, like everywhere, IoT devices, microservices, even within softwares, without hardwares, whatever. We can see all those things. So hopefully we will manage. We don't have much time. We have 30 minutes, so I hope we will manage. What we are going to do today is basically going through the OWASP top 10 API security. Anyone heard about it? Yeah? Oh, very good, nice. And then if we have time, I had an idea to show some kind of a live abuse, depends on how many people here knows API security from OWASP top 10. So let's start. So probably I shouldn't speak about what API is, right? So I will just skip it, okay? But we love APIs, right? We see, as I said, we have APIs in IoT, in like B2B platforms, serverless, automotive, single web application, even that today are using B2B. And the whole idea is that why is it happening is because all the clients we have today, the devices we have today are actually, they are getting stronger, right? The clients we have today, like the phones we have, it's like, if you show this one as a server, I don't know, 20 years ago even, or just iPhones or Android, it would be crazy from resources, right? So that's why we move, basically most of the logic is moving from the back end to the front end. And we see it in we used to see it in traditional apps that it used to be like, you send a GET request, it's being rendered in the server, coming back. I guess you guys, most of you aware about this one. But these days, it's a bit different. We have many clients. We don't have one client, which is just the browser or whatever. We have Android phones, as I said, automotive, IoT devices, stuff like that. And what we see is that most of the rendering and stuff like that, it's happening right on the front end. And of course, they all speak the same language, mostly JSON. So the REST API standard, I guess you guys are aware about it. It's standardized, it's predictable endpoints, and we'll speak about it. And then I'm just going over those things because I hope really that most of you know about it. And we can get quickly into the security area. So we see API changes all the time. We have it, especially in CI/CD pipelines. We see it a lot. You can spin off an API like in a few seconds, right? Like in a click of a button, you do it, and it's easy and fast and it's cool. And I love it, but I love it from the security side. So, but how fast it is? It's so fast that people are forgetting some things, you know, like shadow APIs or APIs like old exposed, you know, like weird stuff like qa3.facebook.com, right? Or stuff like that. And suddenly those APIs are vulnerable somehow. They forgot something, it's still there. And we see it more often these days that you can just go to different endpoints and people just forget about it. No documentation, not stuff like that. And that's exactly what the OWASP Top 10 APIs security is speaking about. But there are some good news. The good news is that we don't have those. We don't have things like SQL injections, you know, like those kind of things. We don't see SRF, path manipulation. Those things we don't see it so often in APIs. And of course, all the classic IT security stuff that we see it less. So the OWASP Top 10, I know the OWASP Top 10 2017, there's already 2021. But they said, I want to bridge the gap between OWASP, there is the OWASP Top 10, that everyone knows, the normal for web application, but they said, I want to do the OWASP Top 10 for APIs, because we see that it's an upcoming thing that is coming these days, the last 5 years at least. And they said, let's bridge the gap and build the project of API security. So OWASP API Security Top 10. We have all those, the 10 domains. And the 10 domains, I will go on each one of them very high level, but in a nicer way that you can really understand what's really happening behind. And I will also show a bit of few scenarios, okay? So like things that really happen, real attacks that happen lately. So let's start with BOLA. BOLA is broken object level authorization. The idea about BOLA is actually quite interesting. Think about like an insurance company or something like that, right? So you upload the document, it gets an ID. This ID is being assigned to your username. And then when you want to download or see your insurance premium or something like that, you know, then you just can call your document gets an ID 1000, and everything is okay, right? Everyone knows this area. But what happened when I do 1002 from someone else? Just change the request. Change instead of 1000, 1002, and then of course I get it as well. And this one is BOLA, broken object level authorization. Why is it so common? Because what you can do with it is crazy. Most of the data leaks we know and stuff like that. This one is exactly the idea where you can do a huge data leak. You can download millions of insurance contracts, like I said, or whatever. And unfortunately, there is no real security because it's allowed, right? It's by design. And because it's by design, it's allowed to do, it's basically allowed. It's not forbidden. So what might happen, as I said, as you know, if you know Verizon, it's a cellular provider. And what happened is that someone just tried it, and then he said, okay, maybe what if I just brute forcing it, or just go with the request? Like I guess if someone here was on the burping thing from About You, anyone was? Yeah. Yeah. So you saw he was just changing the ID, and he said if you change the ID there, then you can download something else. And the guy just wrote a simple Python script and just went from 131, 00001, 002, 3, 4, etc., and then basically what he did, he downloaded all the Verizon contracts, crazy data leak. Okay, that's basically what happened there. Another thing from my field, this is an automotive, I guess you can see there, it's Skoda. And there was a Polish guy, Daniel, he did a full disclosure, so nothing that I'm showing here is not allowed or something. But what the guy did is he basically researched his own car. He tried to infiltrate between the car and the backend. And he saw the things that are happening in between, the APIs that are going there and the endpoints. And he saw that if he changed the VIN, I don't know if you can see it, but can I show something here? It works. Yeah, so you see here it's a VIN. VIN, it's called Vehicle Identification Number. It's a unique number for every vehicle that is on the road. And this VIN, he basically changed the vehicle identification number, and he got a health report of every single vehicle. So he could see the mileage, as you see here. He could see like the last time step. He could like really call very interesting data, and he could manage to download the data from other people's vehicles. And we see it now more often. You know, we see in Tesla there was lots of hacks in the automotive industry, and that's super interesting. And most of them are happening because of weird API security stuff. Yeah, so API 2, it's broken authentication. Broken authentication is lack of protection or misimplementation. So things like, so you see, you basically need to, the idea is to have these kind of assets. You basically mark your asset. You say, I have, you know, just the login, the forgot password, and mobile login and stuff like that. And then you say, this one I want to really protect. And that's basically the whole idea about broken authentication. And most of the things like we see a lot of rate limiting. Rate limiting is like you can just send millions of requests and it works somehow. And whatever I try, you know, there is no rate limiting for every endpoint. You know, you say, yeah, I have a WAF, it works. It's not. I have Cloudflare. Believe me, it's super easy to bypass Cloudflare. So try to put it in the code. That's basically, most of those things can happen in the code. Unfortunately, I cannot show code or start coding here to show exactly what it is. But misimplementation like JWT support, like algorithm none, weird stuff like that will basically happen, like broken authentication will happen because of these kind of things. Weird password that are stored without salt. So basically, these are the things that usually I see while I pen test different APIs. Why is it also so common? Because we just see, you know, we see it because it's basically by design. We see it like rate limiting, as I said before. It's, you know, it's from the code. If you have Cloudflare, you think it works. It's not. So really try to find different ways or different security mechanism in order to authenticate right your API endpoints, each one of them. I'm sorry I'm doing it super fast because we don't have much time. As I said, we have only 30 minutes, and there are a lot of domains. So basically, API 3 domain is the excessive data exposure. What is the excessive data exposure? So this one is actually very interesting. So we have here very nice app, very safe app from Bob. You can see the Bob's profile there. Name Bob, role minion, and of course his hobby is bananas. And then the excessive data exposure, what does it mean? It means like from my app, from my phone, Bob is sending like he wants to log into his profile, and then everything is okay. And then you can see the GET request here, profile 717. And then we get the response. And what do we see in the response? Anyone can recognize here something that shouldn't be? Can you see it at all? Right, so we see that the address is here. Do we show the address on the client? No. That's a lot of problems that I see, that developers are just doing things like to Json Throw, you know, things like that. And you see it a lot in APIs, that just weird things are being thrown back, things that shouldn't be there. And that's exactly what the security pen testers or maybe the hackers in this area are basically looking. That's exactly what we look at. Why is it so common? Because, you know, REST API standards, it puts you in a kind of a box, you know, and they say, yeah, do that, you know, the Swagger, stuff like that. And then, as I said, there's to JSON and throw back everything, all the data back, and then you say, yeah, the front-end guy will deal with it. That's exactly the problem. Usually the front-end guys are not dealing with it. So they will filter it, but the response is still there. The information is there out. It's not like we can hide it. So backend stuff. And something cool that happened in API 3. Anyone knows this hack? Anyone? Wow, cool. No, it's not Ashley Madison. It's 3Fun. 3Fun is something similar to Ashley Madison. It's basically it's an app for couples that are trying to spicing up things in their, relationship things. So, what happened here is that if you can see the burp request, can you see it, or is it too blurry? I hope not. It's a bit blurry, yeah. Yeah. So basically, in here you can see that what you can do is you can reply this or repeat this request there. And what is happening is that you can change the longitude, latitude. If you see here, I'm not sure if you can see it here. So here is the latitude, longitude. So it's the coordinates of the request. And then what you can do is you can see all the people that are actually in in a certain area, and you can do whatever you want. You can request anything. It doesn't even check where you are or whatever. Even if it checks, you can just, spoof the GPS coordinates your own. But it doesn't matter. The idea is that this one is extremely excessive data exposure. He could see all the people's information. So things like, I don't know if you can see it here, but no. Yeah, so you can see really names and emails and stuff like that. What is their favorite, weird stuff that they want to do together or whatever. So it's very interesting to see. You can see pictures of people. Just do whatever you want. So the guy, what he did also, he actually said, let's check if there is anyone in the White House. So he saw exactly someone in the White House that has this app installed. So very, very nice, very interesting thing. I think it was 2017 or something. I'm not sure. Yeah. Do the calculation. I'm not following anymore. So API 4, we have lack of resource and rate limiting. This one we spoke about before. You can see, just give enough CPU, even if you're using cloud stuff, just give enough CPU, like memory, etc. Those kind of things, will help you with the, if there is any DOS attack on stuff like that, and then, believe me, it works, and it's not nice that suddenly your entire application is not running anymore. Strings for overflow, stuff like that, just make sure you guys are really paying attention to it. And of course, credential stuffing and brute force attacks. When you write the code, think about those things all the time. It's all from the code coming. That's what I see. Most of the less interesting stuff, I will just explain what can you do, and the more interesting stuff to explain, like BAFLA, for example, we call it broken function level authorization. I will show a bit more so you can really understand what it is. The idea about BAFLA, we call it BAFLA, and if there are any Israelis here, I guess you, BAFLA is our buffle, so we call it BAFLA. I don't know why, don't ask me why, but it's called BAFLA anyway. Broken function level authorization, it goes like that. So when you as an admin, you try to send the delete request to a user, what is happening is that you say, right, delete, just change here this delete thingy, like the HTTP request method, then API v2 user 717, as we saw before, and then I basically delete. But what happens if I do it as a normal user? Who is protecting it? Who is authorizing it? I can just see that is happening, and then I just repeat the same request, and then suddenly I can delete users. So that's exactly a broken function level authorization. Of course, here, why is it so common? Because first of all, it's from the code. It's really hard to protect it. You cannot protect it with a Cloudflare or some WAF or something. It's impossible. And of course, it's a lot of configurations. If you're using API gateways and stuff like that, you can also implement it. But what we see, like the difference between what we used to see back in the days, I call it, is that we see like things, app, admin, panel, users, management, ASPX. This one is so hard to predict. It's almost impossible to predict this URL and what's going on behind it. Like action, delete, user. You could have write it by yourself. It's no standard. But when we speak about APIs, come on, you just change the post request to delete and that's it. Or put request, you change to delete, that's it. It should work, that's basically how it is. And it's super easy to predict. And that's exactly the problem with APIs. This entire thing is so predictable, you know exactly what you can do when you speak with those endpoints. And that's what brings us to security issues. API 6, mass assignment. Mass assignment is basically when you have things that you assign without paying attention what you assign, basically. Things like you do a post and then suddenly you put here a role admin. I think the guy from Burps showed it yesterday, but it was from the response. Here, most of the time you see it on the post request, and suddenly you have a username, password when new user stuff. Then you have the role, and then suddenly admin. Suddenly role admin. Those are the things that is called mass assignments. Is because you want to see. It's because it just bring too many parameters to that is not needed. Let's say it like that within the response. It's easier to exploit in APIs. Very easy to exploit. And when I speak about exploitation, I'm not only speaking about changing the content of the web app or something like that. I'm talking about really getting to the server, full access. RCE, that's what I'm talking about always, remote code execution. Okay, for us, it's less important. DOS attack is nice, just check it. But at the end, you want to get the full access to the server, right? So let's look at this request here. So we have very interesting request, video files. It's probably, there's a kind of a clip MP4, and then this one, we want to convert it into some whatever codec. So we send a request, and then we do a put request as well. And then what's happening is that I can also repeat it, but together with this one. See there? Oh, of course, RF minus, R minus RF, everything, asterisk. So whatever you're doing, it works, believe me. We've done it. We know those things, it works. And it's boring, Like when I see this one, I say, okay, guys, that's very bad. You don't concatenate those things inside. So those are the things that we see in mass assignments. API 7, it's security misconfiguration. We see things like, weak encryptions, unnecessary exploit HTTP methods like we saw before, no CSRF protection, et cetera, You can see here everything. It's basically a bucket of bad things that's usually that we see in security misconfiguration. Injection is not very common in APIs sometimes, but because of the use of NoSQL, then less relevant in APIs, but we can still see there. We can still see some injections that you can do. Improper asset management is quite important, especially for those who's doing documentation. And I know you guys as developers, you don't like to do documentation, but it's fine. It's fine for me. If you don't continue doing documentation, you probably forget some API endpoints, and then I can find it. So at the end, it's my job. But at the end, it's housekeeping, It's finding the right, make sure you have, you don't forget those kind of exposed API, risky API, stuff like that, super important. And documentation, it's exactly the things that help you find those things, those forgettable QA3, as I said, .facebook.com or something like that, You see those things, it actually happens. Because of CI/CD, I just repeat everything I said here, but because of CI/CD and things, you just want to go fast and deploy whatever, so fast. You send it to your merge request, you send it to the build server, it's being deployed so fast, you forget those things. You just want to, and also companies, they push you, they tell you, yeah, you need to deploy, but at the end, you forgot to document, you forgot this one, and then it's still there. So that's exactly what's happening, I guess. And we're almost at the end. Hopefully I will have 5 minutes to show you something cool that I did just thought about. So we have API 10 is the insufficient logging and monitoring. And we see it a lot. I know you guys have, you say, I have Kibana, I send everything. Believe me, you don't send everything. log and monitor every single thing. From user agents to the requests to those, just log everything you can, so you can actually later understand if there is any attack, if someone tried to exploit, and if yes, you need to do incident response. And at least when you do the incident response, when you see, then at least you have something to work with. You know, you have some logs to work with, and that's exactly the thing about insufficient logging and monitoring. You don't know if you don't have a rate limiting, or you don't have the logs at least, then you don't know that you are being attacked. You know that you don't know that someone is sending millions of requests to your end. You don't even know about it. So, you know, that's exactly the idea. Main takeaways before I move on. I have 5 minutes, so no worries. It's not so the live demo. It's not so long. So main takeaways is just best practices for secure development, automation. You know, try to use the tools and everything, the right security tools. Lots of training. Go and do whatever you can. You know, go to trainings. Ask for the companies from where you work to give you security trainings. You have lots of very interesting and very nice platforms to know about security, secure development, open source. Be careful, believe me, that's the craziest thing. That's most of the things I'm looking for is open source vulnerabilities in order to exploit them. It's the nicest and easiest part. You know, integration of security into SDLC or DevSecOps, as you call it, etc., etc. And that's basically it. We have 5 minutes, so what I want to show you is, let's see how it works here. So while I was outside, I saw those scooters, right? You know, tier and stuff like that. So I was thinking, you know, I wasn't sure if I have enough time to show you a live API abuse, but I just started to go around with it a bit here outside. So if you can see my burp here, I'm not sure. I would need to do like that. So what I found is that I can actually, I just put my iPhone through the proxy, right? So then I just load my tier app here, and then I started to see all the interesting endpoints. You know, you can see it here. Sorry, you can see here that was a very interesting endpoint. Can you see something, or is it for me it's blurry? But it's okay in the back, yeah, cool. So you can see here it's a vehicle, and then you see longitude, latitude, of course, in order to understand where you are and what you're looking for. And then at some point you see, and then when you do the request, then you see here all the vehicles that are around you. Do you know that in tier, you know what, maybe I can do this one. I'm not sure it will work. You don't see my iPhone, huh? Doch, jetzt. So, cool. So if you go to tier, what is happening is that you can basically go to where you are, and then here, I press on this one, and then, do you know this function here with the ring bell? You know it? You know, then I was like thinking, wait, if I have all the codes of the vehicles, I can pack it together. I hope you understood. Yeah, so I started to write a very nice Python script. It's not very good because I just did it. But if you look at the Python script, what I'm doing here is basically I'm sending the longitude and latitude where I am, and then I basically go through all the attributes codes of the things that I found. And if you can see here, I can change the radius. I'm not sure if you can see it, but somewhere here I can change the radius to like 500, you know, kilometer or something like that. And then if you go here, I can basically, I just, you know, put the VIN, which is the code of the scooter. And then I'm just going by for loop, you know, about the entire scooters and just send them, ring the bell. And, you know, it's really cool when you have a Raspberry Pi next to you and you, with your friends, you know, just enter. And then suddenly all the scooters from tier are going like crazy, you know, with the things, you know, so. You can see what you can do with APIs, right? So it's actually pretty nice. Yeah, I guess we have time for questions. I guess I'm good with the time. So yeah, feel free. Thank you.